Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal. It's Boxing Day and that can only mean one thing. The Premier League is back. Arsenal are back. West Ham, the visitors at the Emirates later this evening. I will be there, of course. Cannot wait for this one. My word, it feels like a long time since that win at Wolves. It has been a long time since that win at Wolves. Lots have gone on since then. The thrills and spills of the World Cup, but that is all behind us now and it is very much all attention on the Premier League. Can Arsenal pick up where they left off before the break? 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League, of course, going into this one today. Can they pick up that? Just keep going with the momentum that they built up. That is a big thing. Can they cope without Gabriel Jesus, who is, of course, injured for a considerable period of time? Those are all the questions that are going to be hanging over Arsenal. Everyone pretty much waiting for them to slip up. Mikel Arteta has been speaking very buoyantly ahead of this game. He wants them to just get going exactly where they left off, and just huge 3 points today. It really feels like that. The last thing you want when everyone's beginning to point a few fingers, when everyone's just waiting to see if you're going to come back and slip up, the last thing you want is to not pick up 3 points from your first game back after the break. It feels like a really big one. This is a weird thing to say considering it's the first game back 6 weeks, then it feels like a huge game for Arsenal, but it does, because you just know exactly what's going to be said. If Arsenal don't win today, you know exactly what the sort of narrative is going to be, and I know that Mikel Arteta would certainly expect that as well. So just be so huge, no matter how you do it, just get a win today, get yourself up and running at home, and then you can just start doing what you were doing before that break for the World Cup, just going game by game. But yeah, it feels like a big one today against a West Ham side who tend to struggle when they come to the Emirates or any of the big six. Certainly with David Moyes has got a dreadful record against away from home against the big six for all teams. So anyway, predicted 11, we'll have a look at that. Eddie Nketiah, Mikel Arteta has been speaking about Eddie Nketiah ahead of the game. A lot of focus on Eddie, of course, because with Gabriel Jesus injured. Some good stuff on transfers from Arteta as well ahead of the game that came out last night from the embargo section of his press conference. So we'll look at what he had to say there. But we'll start with West Ham, shall we, and the game tonight, and we'll look at who we think is probably going to start. Last time I did a video, I talked about the sort of key areas that sort of where question marks hung over the team and the potential lineup, and that is really at centre back and at left back. And do you throw William Saliba straight back in after he only came back a few days ago from the World Cup, and he didn't play too much at the World Cup at all, so it's not like he was match sharp or anything. Do you throw him back in, or do you stick with Rob Holding for this one, who's played all the warm-up games? And what do you do at left back if Kieran Tierney is not available, if Zinchenko is not available? And there's certainly question marks over both of those, and Tomiyasu, it looks like, isn't available either. So suddenly you're against Luton in the final warm-up game, behind closed doors friend, you had Cedric Suarez at left back. Is that something you're going to have to do again today, or will the likes of Tierney or even Zinchenko come back in? So this is a predicted 11. I'm probably going to be totally wrong, so feel free to message me later and laugh at me how wrong I was, but this is the predicted 11 I'm going to go for today. Obviously Aaron Ramsdale in goal. I'm going Ben White at right back. I'm going Saliba and Gabriel. I think Saliba might come straight back in for this one. I've had a couple of days thinking about it. I was sort of erring towards the side of him going with Rob Holding, but now I've thought, no, in fact, I think he's going to go Saliba. So I think it'll be Saliba and Gabriel as centre back. So I'm going to go with Tierney at left back, and that's more in hope than anything else. I'm hoping Tierney's going to be fit. I don't think Zinchenko's going to go straight into the team, even if he's all right. I think I'm going with Tierney, but again, that's more in hope than knowledge or anything or inside information on the team. I'm just hoping Tierney's going to be fit, because I'd much rather see him over there than Cedric Suarez, of course, who isn't a left back. Midfield, pretty much the rest of the team picks itself now, unless there's been an injury behind the scenes that we don't know about. So it's going to be Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah and Gabriel Martinelli. So I think that rest of the side picks itself. It's just what goes on at centre back and left back. Those are the two key areas for Mikel Arteta. The big decision at centre back is Saliba and Holding, obviously, and then it all depends on fitness wise for the left back. So that's my predicted 11 for Arsenal's first game back today. Just run through it again: Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Tierney, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Nketiah and Gabriel Martinelli. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that can get the job done. Arsenal can pick up 3 points and pick up exactly where they left off before that break. Let me know what you guys think. Who should be playing today? Who do you want to see starting in this big one tonight at the Emirates? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Okay, so before we talk about transfers, which we will. Arteta said some really interesting stuff, I thought, ahead of the game when it comes to the transfer market and what he wants to do. But he's been speaking about Eddie Nketiah. Now, there is lots of focus on Eddie, of course, because of what's happened to Gabriel Jesus. Something just falling over to the side of me. And yeah, all the sort of focus is on Eddie. I think it's been ramped up a little bit by the fact he hasn't scored for the last couple of games, and that Arsenal haven't scored for the last couple of games in the warm-ups. There's obviously the 2-0 defeat against Juventus when they missed a fair few chances, and Nketiah should have scored, hit the post in that game. And then the behind closed doors friendly against Luton when they didn't score either. I think that's just kind of raised the panic levels, if that's the right phrase, really, certainly amongst some of the fan base of can Eddie do it. Mikel's been speaking about him. He says, look, we have more faith in Eddie every single day. We see every day what he brings to the team, what he is as a human being, and the way he's developing as a player. We got a great response last year when we needed him, and he did really well for the team. He is ready. That is why he signed his contract. He is a key player in our squad, and he is going to have chances to play. Now, Arsenal need Nketiah to fire, no doubt about it. I don't, as I've said a lot of times in these videos, I don't think necessarily it's just all about goals, because Gabriel Jesus didn't score many, and he scored 5 since he's arrived at the club in all competitions. So I don't think it's necessarily all about the goals. It's more about trying to do the things that Jesus did. Now, that's virtually impossible for Nketiah because he's not the same sort of player, but he's got to do his best that he possibly can to at least help fill the void left by Jesus. So when you're talking about the work rate, when you're talking about the movement, your ability to hold the ball up, which Jesus can do fantastically well for a player of his sort of size and stature, Eddie's got to do as best as he possibly can with all those and chip in with goals, because the goals are certainly important. Look, he's a central striker. He's got to score. And I've said before, I think if Nketiah had played the same amount of games and had the same amount of minutes as Jesus has had this season, he would have scored more goals than Jesus, because I think he's a better finisher. But it's just not all about that with Jesus. It's not about the goals. You know, Arsenal are a team who can who kind of share the goals around. They've had to do that because since Aubameyang's goal dried up, they didn't have a prolific striker. So they've had to sort of share goals around with Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard this season, of course, is top goal scorer, all chipping in with goals, and they're going to have to continue to do that. But yeah, hopefully Eddie can do what he did when he came in towards the end of last season, when he had a huge impact. He scored goals, but he didn't just score goals, but he just played really well. His pressing from the front was such a breath of fresh air after being used to what Lacazette was doing last season. So if he can continue that, then I think he'll do a really excellent job. Yes, it's a little bit frustrating. He hasn't scored in the last couple of games, but I don't think it's not just Eddie. It's the rest of the team who haven't scored in those games either. And before that, in the warm-up games, he had been finding the target. So, you know, hopefully he can just score today. He can just take all that pressure, all that spotlight that is going to be on him undoubtedly. This is his big opportunity. This is why he stayed. This is why he signed the contract. This is what he's wanted the whole time he's been at Arsenal. You know, he's called for being the main man. He is going to be the main man in a team that is targeting the title. You know, this is what dreams are made of for a kid who's come through the academy, and he is going to get that opportunity now, and it's about seizing your opportunity, and fingers crossed he can do that, because he is good enough. He can score goals. I have no doubt in my mind that he can score goals and he can make an impact in this team. He showed it last season, at the end of the season when he came into the team, and if he can repeat that, then hopefully that will at least lessen the blow of losing Jesus for however long Jesus is going to be out for. So really big times for Eddie. No surprise to see Mikel come out and back him the way he has done, because he needs him. He wants to big him up. He wants to make him feel good, try and take some of the pressure off him ahead of this game against West Ham, because everyone's going to be very aware that everyone's going to be focusing on Eddie, and the longer he goes without a goal, the more pressure is going to build. So hopefully he can get that goal today, get up and running, and can help Arsenal to 3 big points. Okay, now finally, before I call time on this video, let's talk about transfers, shall we, and what Mikel Arteta is having to say. Now, I thought these were interesting, and as I've said all the time in these videos, I love the way Arteta is very forthright when he talks about transfers, and when he always uses pretty much every press conference as an opportunity to put the pressure on the owners, to put the pressure on Edu, everyone else, saying, look, back me, I want this, we want to spend, we want to improve, we've got to keep doing it, we can't waste transfer windows, we've got to maximise every transfer window at the moment. And he's been speaking a lot about in this latest press conference, and he was asked about the importance of signing a player early. Would you rather, as soon as January transfer window opens, bang, go in, do your business, get it done? This is what he had to say. He said, we knew the importance of getting players early in the summer, and that is what we want to do in January. This is idealistic, but sometimes it is not realistic. Obviously, if you ask my opinion, as quick as possible, we want to get the players in. We don't need a body, we need players that make the team better. I think personalities that have the mentality that win, that want to win, and we have to focus on that. We have to be very strict with what we have to done and the policy. We have to make the team successful. So again, they're saying he wants the players early, but he admits that it might not be able to happen. It's all about he wants it, but then can the club get it done? He's not the one who's doing the deals, obviously. And he was asked about, are you going to sign a striker? Can you afford to sign a striker? He said, can we afford to not get the player in that we want? That is a question. We can afford to get a striker for sure if we want one. I don't know if he plays in League 2, League 5, Spain, Portugal or Africa, but we can get a striker. I can guarantee you that. But what we cannot afford to do is get a player here that is not for us. This is what we cannot afford. That is for sure. And I think that's really important. It's what I've spoken about in previous videos as well. When it comes to signing forwards, signing players in January, Arsenal are not going to panic. They are not going to go out and just sign anyone. That's not how they operate anymore. That's what's got them in trouble before. When it's come to building a squad, that's all the work that's gone on in the last couple of years in getting the sort of squad together that Arteta wants, that Edu wants. They've got a very strict profile. They're not going to break away from that. They're not going to go and panic buy. They showed that last January when they let Aubameyang go without bringing in a replacement. They didn't want to just get anyone for the sake of it and end up with a player in 6 months' time they don't really want, who's going to be paying hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, and then they can't shift him, and then they're left with a problem. So they waited, they got Jesus in the summer, and then they went. And I think that's very similar to what they're going to do now. They want to sign someone in January, that's clear. They are targeting players. We know that. They do want to improve going forward. They want to bring in attacking options, someone, a winger, potentially someone to replace Jesus or can help take the sort of burden off Eddie Nketiah. But they're not going to go out and just sign anyone for the sake of it. That's just not what Arsenal do anymore in the transfer market. I support that 100%. I think it's the right way to go. Obviously, I would like them to go out and buy whoever that can help push them on over the second half of the season. Everyone wants that. You want to go out and sign the best players, but you've got to make sure they are the right players. They are the best players for one, and they are the right players for the squad. And if they can't do that in Arsenal, I don't think that, they're not going to panic. They've proven it. And Mikel Arteta is saying it there in those comments, which when I read them, I thought were very good comments. And I think that's the way that Arsenal need to operate nowadays. And it is the way they are operating nowadays. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your Boxing Day, whatever you're doing. If you're like me, you're going to be building Lego all day for your kids, and enjoy that. But fortunately, there is something to look forward to this evening, isn't there? So if you're going to the game like me, have a great one. Really hope you enjoy being back. Hope the atmosphere is brilliant. And if you're watching anywhere else around the world, then enjoy it. Cheer the team on. Enjoy a drink. And enjoy the game. Speak to you soon.